evening to everyone, all our ICC participants, as well as all the educators who've joined us in. With the outbreak of the pandemic and everything turning online, there are a lot of questions regarding how the exams and assessments will take place this year. The in-person tests in the usual fashion come with a lot of health risks. Online examinations also can't be a solution given the limitations on invigilation and the lack of uniform digital connectivity across the country. So this is the right place where you will get answers to all these questions. Mindler, in collaboration with EducationWorld, brings to you an insightful panel discussion on future of board exams and assessment in this pandemic year. I welcome all our lovely panelists. I will start off by introducing our moderator for this evening. Summiya Yasmeen is a co-founder and managing editor of EducationWorld, India's #1 education magazine, and Parents World, which is India's #1 parenting magazine. An alumnus of the Asian College of Journalism, she has written extensively on challenges confronting the Indian education system and is also the author of the best-selling 101 Great Universities of the World. We welcome you. We welcome all of you and looking forward to the panel discussion.
Thank you, Eesha. I welcome our distinguished panelists and attendees who've logged in from across the country to discuss and debate a very important topic, future of board exams and assessment. The panel begin by introducing our expert, headmaster of Salaki International School, an alumna of the University of Delhi and Bath University. Rashid has formerly taught at highly respected boarding schools, including the Lawrence School, Lovedale, Assam Valley School, and the Doon School, Dehradun. A sports enthusiast and avid trekker, traveler, and reader, Rashid has keenly been interested in the education of marginalized communities and has presented research papers on the subject at various national and international seminars. Rashid, a warm welcome to you. Our next panelist is Uttara Singh. Uttara is director of the Sri Ram Millennium Schools and the principal of the Sri Ram Millennium School, Noida. In a career spanning more than 2.5 decades in various schools in Delhi NCR, she has donned many hats, from that of a teacher to an administrator, and achieved a host of milestones during this journey. She started the very first Sri Ram Millennium School in Noida a decade ago, followed by the Sri Ram Millennium Schools in Faridabad and Gurgaon. Under her leadership, the Sri Ram Millennium Schools have transformed into pace-setting institutions, ranked among the top schools in Delhi NCR in the EducationWorld India School Rankings. Uttara, we extend a warm welcome to you. Our next panelist, most welcome. Our next panelist is Rupa Chakravarty, who is the director of Sun City Schools, Gurgaon. Ms. Chakravarty is an experienced K-12 education leader with demonstrated history of working in the education management industry, an alumna of Calcutta University, who has completed several courses in school leadership and management from Ahmedabad and Harvard University. She has presented papers at several international conferences and served in CBSE advisory committees. Ms. Chakravarty, a warm welcome to you. Dr. Nripin Datta is the founder principal of the CBSE affiliated Miles Bronson Residential School, Guwahati, which is ranked among India's top 10 boarding schools in the EducationWorld India School Rankings. An alumnus of Delhi and Guwahati universities, while preparing to qualify as an IAS officer, Dr. Datta realized his true calling was to provide academically neglected students of the Northeast access to high quality primary secondary education. And thus he promoted MBRS in 1987. MBRS is accredited with several national and international organizations, including the IPSC, Round Square, etc. Dr. Datta, a warm welcome.
Thank you.
I also would like to extend a warm welcome to Bhavin Shah, CEO of EducationWorld. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's begin. 6 months now into the COVID-19 pandemic, schools are still coming to terms and struggling to cope with the huge disruption of education delivery and adjusting to the switch to online teaching learning. And perhaps in this transition to online media, the biggest disruption is perhaps in student assessment and testing. Many schools and educators are experimenting as to ways students can be fairly and comprehensively assessed. But the biggest challenge perhaps is the board exams, which if you follow last year's calendar are less than 4 months away. Parents, students, academics have questions, doubts as to how and when will they be held. In this next 1 hour, we hope to discuss the challenges and ideate some solutions on ways and means we can assess students in school as well as board exams in this pandemic year. Rashid, if I could begin with you, how do you see this entire board exam situation panning out? Do you think, is it fair to hold the board exams at the usual time and follow the usual exam pattern when there is such a huge learning disruption? Educators are estimating that there will be huge learning gaps because, let's admit it, online education doesn't have the same learning effectiveness with all children.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just to put things in perspective, we have about 32 crores children who have been affected by the pandemic, in a sense that they are not going to schools of any order. So that would mean that it's not just the numbers, we're also talking about access to education in terms of providing online teaching and learning. Every family or probably every school is not as blessed as lots of private schools that exist. So when we talk about the policy and the board exam, we are looking at the entire spectrum of students, right from government schools to small private schools to bigger private schools and of course boarding schools. So if you look at the entire spread, you'll realize that the accessibility to online learning has been affected largely because of the resources and also because of technology. I'm sure tier 3 towns, villages doesn't have that kind of bandwidth or even resources for students to access learning in the classroom. Not to forget that teachers also in most of the schools are not adequately trained to do these classes online. It's not just about switching on your camera and teaching. I think teaching goes beyond just a lecture method in the current situation. So I think that's one point that one has to remember. The second issue is about the board exam and the relevance of it in such a time, in the sense that the CBSE, of course, and ICSC, everyone did say that we are going to do board exam. They have reduced a certain portion of syllabus, but that's not enough. I head up CBSE school, so I'm not even sure that what would be the structure like, what would be the question pattern like, what would be the testing methodology like. So while National Education Policy has talked about some of these things spanning out over the next 4 or 5 years, but we do not still know that what's happening this year in March or in February. So I think we probably have to just keep wait and watch for another month or so. I'm sure CBSE another board examining body will come out with some kind of guidelines on it. But when we make these guidelines, one has to be sure that we look at students' welfare in terms of emotional welfare. We look at whether they have been able to access education, and we look at the fact that whether they have understood what is supposed to be taught, because teaching in a classroom is a bit different than teaching across the screen. And I think these are the 3 factors that one has to really keep in mind.
Thanks, Rashid, for that insightful perspective. We'll come back to some of the points you've raised. I'd like to now go to Uttara. Uttara, apart from the crucial board exams, the usual assessment system for all classes, whether it's formative or summative, has also gone for a toss. Do you think this is going to have an adverse effect on how students' learning milestones will be evaluated, and accordingly they'll be provided remedial education?
Namaste to everyone. Summiya, yes, what you said is right to a certain extent. So what I believe is that, while definitely we are all in the midst of a situation that nobody had ever imagined, and we never thought that school teachers could work from home. It was something that only corporates did, right? But here we are where everybody is working from home and trying to do their best. And honestly, I have across all platforms only been saluting teachers for upscaling so quickly and so fast, and actually trying to bring in some semblance of normalcy into the lives of our children. So learning is something, this whole teaching learning process always has involved assessment. Because assessment, without assessment, you are not able to understand how much have you been able to deliver. What is it that the children have taken away? So, while of course schools like ours and other private schools have found various means through technology to conduct assessments, there are a lot of things available which were available earlier also, and a lot of things have come up now, where we are able to continue with assessments, where we are using things like Kahoot, quizzes, etc., etc., etc. And it's happening. But like, we all know, India is not only about private schools, right? There is a large quantity of children there who are definitely not getting what they deserve or what they should be getting. So here is where I think we have just been thrown into an ocean where we were not prepared. So somewhere, some policies have to come in which are in favor of a larger number of children, where assessments, or maybe, look at this year as a low year, as a year where we kind of change our perspective towards assessment and not look at it as something where, we need to follow the old normal. Because really, honestly, a government school, or let's say a small school, a rural school, people are trying very hard. I have seen people in, through WhatsApp, teaching, sending assessments, children sending them back. I was reading about a school where they use loudspeakers to teach the children. So India is very innovative, right? We have a lot of, ways and means to get things happening and done. But still, are we really being fair to our children? I think that's the question we all need to ask. And assessments have to happen in some way or the other. Let's just hope and see what we can, do to make it child friendly. Because without that, it's going to be a mess. Because if we look at, assessment just of, let's say, rote learning, or assessment of what a child is supposed to, just deliver a pre-knowledge or something that he's memorized, that I don't think is any more required in the real world. Technology today has taught us more than anything else. We actually need to change our perspective and view to what are we assessing. Not only assessing memorization, not only assessing things that are that we used to assess through our summative examinations that we did. So I think assessments have to happen. It's not that we can do without it, especially for older children. Younger children, I still think we have time. We need to take it easy. All of us need to revisit our curriculum and probably look at next year as a year to bridge the gaps. If we are out of this by next year, if this continues, then we need to look at it even further. And these 2-3 years need to be the bridging years for the years ahead. But yes, for older children, for senior school, we really need to look at something very different and very new. And let's ideate on it together, I think, as the show goes on. Summiya, can you hear me?
Summiya, are you there? I think so. She's having some internet issue. No, maybe we'll just carry on with the conversation while she comes back.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, she's back.
Rupa, if I could come over. Can you hear me now? Everyone?
No. Summiya, you can restart your question.
Yeah, I'll just restart my question. Rupa, I was going to come to you now and ask you, like Uttara also said, many schools are experimenting with the online media as an assessment tool. And like she said, and like I'm sure you also know, it's not the ideal format for student assessment. And schools are experimenting things like involving parents as invigilators, trying out open book exams. How do you think that these media are effective? Are they able to offer, most importantly, a fair and comprehensive assessment of a...
Rupa ma'am, if you've got the question again, so you can start because her voice is breaking.
Yes, I've got the question, Summiya. Thank you so much. I've understood what you're trying to say. So I think the first thing I wish to say over here, we adults are looking at this situation from our perspective. if you look at it from a student's perspective, they're far more ready for the situation today than we are. So that's the first point that I wish to bring here onto the platform. The second thing that we need to understand that, we've heard of assessment of learning, we've heard of assessment for learning, but there is assessment as learning, using the learning as assessment. So that is where we need to move now, that is assessment as learning. And we are all the time, we hear about pedagogy, pedagogy is about self-directed learning. So I think these two things, if we start putting it as parallel things and start focusing on that, one, assessment as learning, and two, the pedagogy, which is about self-directed learning, and use the multiple intelligences, to gauge a child. Why only the pen and paper? The pen and paper is one aspect. Maybe we should shift a bit from the pen and paper onto the many aspects of learning that a child imbues, And here, I think the famous statement of Einstein comes into play, where he says that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by the way it climbs a tree, he is going to be stupid all his life to the people, So I think I have never been a very, very pedantic or academically focused student. So, and I had been a lot into, doing acting and debating and things. So this is a time, linguistic is not about the literature that you write. It's about, okay, you could write a short story during these holidays, and then let the teacher gauge that how imaginative was your short story. So I think these are few aspects that we need to start thinking upon, radically change ourselves, because these are radical times and we need radical thought changes, and ensure that self-directed learning is coming into play. If that answers your question.
Thanks, Rupa, for that very, I think, nuanced perspective. Dr. Datta, if I could come to you. Yes. What are your views? What do you think? Do you think that the board exams should be held in the same format as before? And if not, what ideas and solutions do you have to how they could be perhaps recalibrated to cope with this really unprecedented situation that's presented?
I don't know how far I can give a solution to that.
Not just educators worldwide.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Bhavin, very much. Very much. Yes, yes, very much.
So, I feel over privileged when you tell me that you give a solution. I feel humbled also, and I feel CBSE and people like you will give a small bit of air to people like us. Yes, working in the field of education and trying to do a little bit, I can sense the difficulty, and I have also passed across this phase one. In the 80s, I was a student, and I lost a year because of that student agitation. So first thing is that I don't want the students to be in a state of fear, and the students, the kind and in the manner they are suffering at home, we can easily go from the various reports coming. So they need to come out to the school, and they are confident. They have also sacrificed a lot, equally their parents. And I would like such things to happen for children that are positive and that are result oriented. Now, Summiya and Bhavin, you see, and rest in the panel, their year is almost gone. Now, what is the way out? Like as Gautama Buddha says about the middle path. And what is the middle path? Knowledge, action, and liberation. So this middle path, and as Darwin says, that the strongest person is the one who is adaptive. So here in this kind of a situation, I feel that we need to handhold the students. Whatever syllabus has gone, the syllabus has been cut, sliced, and it maybe get cut into bits and pieces, but assessments should be there. And assessments should be there on And it should be a bit more far-sighted so that when they go for competitive examinations, for the NEET and IIT, JEE and other competitive examinations, they should also, the National Testing Agency along with CBSE should also look at things from a student's perspective, depending on the extent of the coverage of the curriculum. Now, how do we test them? I have been experimenting with a lot of assessments, open textbook, open notebooks, objective tests, and giving the students what you call, we call the SSDs, students self-study documents. So with less of teacher supervision, students can work in a self-regulated manner. So these things are empower children, but the testing of the students, in this, I do not know much about the other boards, but being a CBSE school, I've been seeing that, and also with the national this education policy in the offing, that 2023, that they talk about the holistic progress card. And this holistic progress card, which includes 360 degree of assessment, which is already being, CBSE has been proactive. So it has been art integration, then mainstreaming of physical and health education is already being done in the CBSE school from this year. During the COVID situation, CBSE circulars has come and CBSE is talking in terms of competency-based education. So if this competence of holistic progress card can be designed, bringing it forward, like when we talked about the sustainable development of 2016, COVID has brought us forward. So similarly, if we get forward and design such kind of assessment, so the students are able, whatever they have learned, whatever curriculum has been done at home. Today I had a meeting with the parents. The parents are telling me that they have learned at home. It's okay, fine. They know how to learn. It's anywhere, anytime learning, personal learning. But all the syllabus that has been covered till now, will your teachers be ready to repeat and revise all this? That means in-person classes are so much required. So that blending part of it. So I feel testing should be there, exams should be there, and should not be much delayed. And it's a very welcome direction. Like the rest of the world, India is also opening schools because parents also, I just appealing to the parents that they should be positive. They should, whatever is coming in their hands, like who has failed, I don't know, the government has failed, or the systems have failed, the health agencies have failed, or the COVID itself is very strong, a virus that we don't know. We cannot wait for the vaccine or the COVID to go away. So let us have a test examination based on whatever the bits and pieces, and it should be a holistic 360 degree assessment, I feel. Am I addressing the context?
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Yes, thanks very much. We'll come back to some of the suggestions, concerns you've raised. Rashid, I'd like to go to you now. Do you think that, like I say, necessity is the mother of invention? So do you think this is a golden opportunity for all of us to totally reinvent our exam system? Should we move away from the pen and paper testing, which traditionally tests rote learning and memorization skills? Should we radically change this so it doesn't matter that even if you have a textbook in front of you and you're doing an exam online, you're testing a student's application skills, you're testing his critical thinking skills. So it doesn't matter if his parents are helping him, if somebody else is helping him, it doesn't matter, because the questions would require a student to think out of the box, to apply his knowledge rather than regurgitate knowledge.
So Summiya, before I come to that, very quickly, if you could just look at what are the principles of assessment, or in fact, what are the purpose of assessment? Why do we have assessment in India? So in Indian context, of course, it drives learning, it informs students or learners of their progress. It also provides data and a record for the government. But if you look at board exams and assessment, then it provides the benchmark for college admission. The issue with the assessment in India is that we are still very heavily focused on summative, and that is just one exam at the end of the year. So now you have a cutoff that is 99%, 100%. If you just look at the list released by, my college, for instance, St. Stephen's or Delhi University, you will realize that it's mind-boggling. I mean, I wouldn't have got in there, if it was in 97.
It's 100% for some programs.
It is economics or something, but I wouldn't have got in if it was in 97 or something. But the fact is that we have to address that. And one of the way we could do is, I'm just thinking in terms of college admission, is that we go the way American universities, they do it. We create a system of SAT or ACT or GRE, whatever you want to call it. But I think this is something that is definitely going to come out of this entire pandemic. And that is one thing for certain, that there's going to be a college board exam. And looks like what I hear is that it will then include everything, right? From your engineering to your medical exams to admission to other colleges, etc. And that's what I think we should have. We should create a kind of a college board system where we have a centralized testing for students who have done or who are doing their board exam, and maybe use that score, whatever happens at the board exam, for admission to any of these colleges or institute. So it would mean that we have to drastically change our view or our stance from rote learning, from summative assessment to an assessment probably throughout the year. So what I propose is that if you build a system where you are assessing someone throughout the year, maybe more formative, and then have less weightage at the end of the year, you may find the entire balance of learning tips throughout the year. So right now what happens when you have an annual exam, students study for 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, whatever that time they have. And then they forget about the rest of the exams whenever that happens, because they know that it's not going to matter. So for instance, if you look at a class 12th boy or girl, why would she be so concerned about a unit test or maybe a term exam or a half yearly, when they know that the entire focus and everything is going to be channelized right at the end of the spectrum, which is the annual exam. So we could go that way. Secondly, we could, the new education policy has talked about it some way, that they are going to change the examination pattern in the next 5 years. They have done some last year, just a very minute, that is in CBSE. This year, as I said, that we don't know how and what the system would be, but there's going to be a change. And I do feel that different boards across the country will come up with a different kind of assessment to address this. It has to be, because, then you have to look at assessment as something that, so it has to be reliable. That's very important. So when I think, was it you who said that you don't really bother whether a parent is helping a student or family is helping the student, as long as the assessment is done. I don't think it's probably the right way of looking at things, because assessment has to be of that particular student and not of the entire family or extended family behind the screen. So we have to find a way of reliability. We have to find a practicality, of course, in terms of a spectrum of students and schools. And then we have to look at validity of those, validity and authenticity. So if we get all this right, then you could have a system that will probably change the entire pattern.
Thanks, Rashid. Just to correct, I wasn't advocating that parents help children. I was saying that, you change the exam pattern in such a way that it doesn't matter if you have a textbook next to you. The question would require a student to apply his knowledge and application skills. Thanks so much. We'll come back to some of your suggestions.
Based on competency-based testing, so that's going to happen.
Yes, yes. Uttara, if I could draw you in next, Uttara. Uttara, some people are advocating that, perhaps we should go back to about 2, 3, 4 years ago, when class 10 exams were made optional and schools were allowed to test. So probably this year we should do that. We should make class 10 exams optional, have only schools do the assessment. because there's so much importance given to by parents and students to board exams, including the class 10 exam. And there's a lot of stress and panic among parents as to how it's going to pan out. So to save a lot of anxiety and stress, perhaps an option of making class 10 board exams should be made optional. What are your thoughts on that?
So what I feel, Summiya, is, where there is a continuation from class 10 to class 11 and 12 in schools, that could possibly be a good solution, where schools are assessing the students and, they are moving on to grade 11 accordingly. But there are many states in our country, especially like Maharashtra, for that I know, where children move on to junior college after grade 10. So then if a school has given an assessment, what is the validity is a question that always comes in, because somewhere we have got used to this idea that, an external examination is a honest or a correct evaluation system. An internal examination, somewhere it is felt that, sometimes maybe schools tend to favor their own students, or there is a wide variety. Recently we had this whole uproar. I'm sure you all are familiar with it, even about, exams in the UK when all of this happened. And, teachers assessing children, personal biases are felt, can come in. So that is why we have this exam across the country where, it is done in a completely unbiased kind of a way. So class 10, where it is a progression within schools, like in North India, it is there where 11th and 12th are part of school. Yes, it is a very good solution. I would love to do it in my school, but we have to again look at it across the country, right? So maybe an option could be given to the students. Maybe we could have it, somewhere I feel we'll have to find solutions which are out of the box and which are not maybe so watertight, because we cannot have a one formula fits all. In a country the size of ours, and with a variety of state boards, central boards, ICSC, CBSC, and international boards too, it is going to be very difficult to have a one size fits all. So maybe the government should come up with, different kind of solutions to this, which are acceptable. And this can happen at grade 10, but then grade 12 is going to be another story, because after grade 12, you need an even platform where everybody has, been kind of at least examined or given their grades and marks on an equal level, right? Even last year, we had so much of confusion about the boards. Are they happening? Are they not happening? We were conducting extra classes in June just to make sure that if the exams are in July, then they got cancelled. I think we should definitely not have an uncertain situation like that in the next year. We must make sure that the governments, the boards, everybody has a very clear thought out plan of action, because now we know COVID is here to stay. Even if a vaccine does come out, let's say early 21, how many children are going to be able to take it? What is access to that vaccine? We have so many things which are clearer today. I think we are in a better position to make a decision which should be favoring the children, should be fair, should be, visible to be absolutely valid. And it is very, very important that everybody feels that, yes, this has been done correctly. So I think a timely decision at this moment would help all of us much more than what that decision will be, and, that whole uncertainty around it. Even syllabus, syllabus is being reduced month on month. So sometimes teachers have already taught those things. And again, there's been a syllabus reduction, which is very good, which should have happened. It's an unknown situation for us. But I think today, if we are sitting in nearly October, like you said, we are just 4 to 5 months away from a normal schedule of board exams. We are getting into our school finals, preliminaries, boards, so there are so many things. Surveys call 9 to 12 to school, not working. Parents are not ready to risk sending a child to school, because even if one child happens to, pass on the virus, it is going home. And there are family members, there are elderly people, there are people who are, who have various kind of issues. So we have to understand that this board exam now is not an exam only for the student. This board exam is going to impact the entire family, not only in the normal way that, our parents tend to get stressed about it, where the stress is more about only if my child is going to go to school on time, has he revised, what marks. That is now a stress of the past. I think the stress of the future is my child going to come back home safe, clean, without the virus? And how do you know that really? You can do the sanitization, you can do everything, but we all know that there are asymptomatic carriers. So it's a very difficult situation. But what I feel at this moment is certain tough decisions may need to be taken, but if they are taken on time, it will give a lot of clarity to schools across the country.
Actually, I think you've raised a very valid point, because if you look at the last board exams, there was so much uncertainty to the last minute, students having to go into appeals into the Supreme Court. I think the government, again, the CBSE particularly, which is the national board with more than 25,000 schools affiliated with it, has not even come out and said that what is the future of the class 10 and 12 board exams is going to look like, which is causing all this uncertainty and anxiety, particularly among the parents community. Rupa, I'd like to draw you in now and ask you, there's also talk about how this is going to affect college admissions, particularly at the undergrad level, and professional entrance exams. Will this increase the dependence on this whole parallel industry, the tutorial industry we are talking about? This whole uncertainty about, the board exams, school assessment. Already, as we know, a lot of actually the tutorial industry, including edtech firms, have got actually a new lease of life over the past 6 months. So will that be further increased, and parent and student dependency increased on that, rather than where they need to be learning, which is the schools?
Thank you for asking. See, the first question that you addressed was about what to do with the colleges. This is why everybody kind of depends on the pen and paper, because it kind of addresses the SMART goals. So if you see the points in the SMART goals, it addresses those, because it's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, etc., etc. It's time bound, and that is why the colleges feel, okay, here is it ready in a platter, let me just now take it forth. But the colleges which are thinking are not depending on marks alone. We all know that. My son went to Cambridge. I was sitting there when his interview was happening, and I know what all he plays the tabla. So they looked at that aspect. He does debating. So they looked at that aspect. We need to change. This is the right time to bring about change. And the change is not about schools alone. It's into tertiary education also. And we have Parikshit here. So what we need to do is to make a seamless movement over there, where we are doing a complete assessment of the personality rather than just the academics. So I think that is the first thing we need to look into. The second thing is OTB. I have done OTBs. I studied in a Cambridge board when I did junior Cambridge. And we had OTBs, but you cannot imagine what kind of questions were asked of us. I mean, it used to be so perplexing to know, even with the book open, where is the answer? And that is where the problem is. We need to train our teachers to think like that, and OTBA would be fantastically viable in this situation. So the third thing that I would talk about is, we do not give tutorials a chance because they know the pen and paper, you see, but they do not know the other things. This is also a time to look at Benjamin Bloom's highest order of thinking, that's creativity. And if we start focusing at this time, making that huge change, from just the pen and paper to a persona understanding or personality understanding, then it would be very, very helpful, because this time is not going to come back. We must have radical changes for radical times, and this is what I believe. Tutorials, I feel, will fall out automatically when marks are not the be all and end all of any learning, So let us do it. We have that power. We are at the helm of things. Let's all get together. Like CBSE, IB, I know that they are wanting, they have an open mind to accept people's suggestions, advices. Let us all get together. You are a very a strength to reckon with, you know, in education world. Please make this change. Send them suggestions. I'm on a lot of the CBSE committees, so we could talk about it, you know, to them, and to get into this change, moving from just being the smart outcomes to education being a lifelong learning and a total personality assessment rather than your pedantic assessment. I think these are two major changes which you can bring along with all that is coming in at this point of time. And the teacher training, you know, because the OTBA, if we want the OTBA, because I've gone through those exams, I've seen the kind of questions, we are nowhere near that for the OTBA. We need that training to happen. So I think that's where I would like to end at this point.
Thank you, Rupa. Dr. Datta, if I could come to you now, I think Rupa raised a very valid point that how prepared our teachers are if such a change in assessment is required. We know the complete failure CC was when CBSE tried introducing it. So what happens that if this thing is going to prolong and we need to go into a complete overhaul of our assessment system, how prepared are our teachers to do it?
See, overall, I like to ask you back that overall, in context of this academic session, or you're talking about long term?
I'm talking about this
the
as
question
well as
that
the immediate future as well as long term. If you could address both aspects, please.
Okay, thank you. So the immediate concern for which everyone is really worried and in the crossroads is about bringing a good solution to these 4 months of studies they're having. Here, I think we have to think very practically. And I was just wondering why the government have given an option for the parents that give a consent letter, then send to school. That means the government itself is not sure about what it is doing or what. So if some decision is taken, it should be straightforward. And we should be convinced first ourselves, whoever are in the helm of affairs or in the governance, that we should be convinced first, then we should place it out to the people. So what is important? Things look very, very rosy on the table, and ideas are always great, as Guy Kawasaki has said in his book, The Enchantment, that implementation is the key. So time is running out, and you have taken a very, very good proposition to discuss what about the exams. I appreciate EducationWorld for all these efforts and all those innovative thoughts. But who will bail the cat? Now, as Summiya has highlighted, that time is running out and minds are in a state of fuzziness, the hazy minds, and that is not good. We should be very clear. Schools are really going to open, or we are going to still go on asking for opinions. And in that case, if we put forward a suggestion also, if the parents are not ready to bring the students back to school, then who will come to write the examination? Then again, we have to think for an online examination. Then online examination, again, there will be different modalities for that. So a strong decision has to come from the governance, I feel, first. Then for the academy, for the people like us, one of the panelists, Rupa ma'am has said, raised a very important thing about the teachers, and you have also asked me. Teachers are ready to take on. They have shown it. From traditional way of learning to technology-based learning, within weeks, they have transformed themselves. So the teachers are the great warriors. They can do it, but everything is so confusion, and this confusion when it goes to the public, then it creates a lot of things which is not very, very productive. We have to be very, very clear. And if we are not clear, for example, the government has said that there's an option that you bring the students or you take a consent letter. I told the parents today that for class 10 and 12 graders, that if one parent is bringing, all parents have to bring for the 10 and 12 graders because of board examination. If you're convinced that students are to come to school to study, home study is not enough for a boarding school, we have to all think in tandem. So coming to giving an idea, I feel that this assessment should be there because see, we talk about examinations and this exam, the questioning part of it. Questioning is so important. Questioning is not about finding the right and wrong answer. From the times of Socrates, we have the Socratic questions, which are still so important part of the pedagogy, where Socrates will, like as his disciple Plato has stated, that he will act like an ignorant person and expect questions from his disciples. So this stingray or a great fly or the ignominious questions, the types of question or the midwife questions, we all know. These kind of questionings is required. That the art of questioning is something that the right or wrong answer is not so important as getting all answers, and wrong answers can also open up the misconceptions that the answers have and open up the vistas for scaffolding. So that is what Vygotsky has said, that the art of scaffolding. So these things are in the long drawn. The national education policy, I've been working on that and I have seen that it's a very great idea. A lot of changes, as Summiya is talking about, reformation in terms of assessments. Yes, India needs those reforms. Rupa ma'am also said these reforms are very much essential. Otherwise, the human capital that we are talking about, that we are, the young India that we are talking about, the 21st century skills, these national education policy is a very great work. Many educationalists were involved in developing that. So teaching, learning, and assessments all are covered, and it is really it's within a very innovative pedagogical framework that's been designed. And if it is put into...
You're right, yeah. Dr. Datta. I think, NEP 2020, but unfortunately, it's still a policy document. For it to be implemented, I think it's going to take perhaps, we don't know, perhaps the next decade or longer. But we will... we're happy that you're optimistic that it's going to happen sooner than later. Bhavin, let me invite you. I think we're running out of time. If I could invite you to moderate the question and answers. I see a whole lot of comments, questions.
Yeah, so we,
boxes.
Yeah, as usual, all the participants are very eager, and the topic, which is very pertinent about the future of board exams and assessment. And now it's our turn because the assessment is on us. We have got more than 30 questions and we have to answer it all. So let the Q&A begin. But while I again start the question and answers from the participant, I think so the summary everyone is talking about is what's largely the future of board exam. And I think so all of the panelists which are talking about the state of confusion, there's uncertainty, and I think so Uttara ma'am started saying collectively an idea could be coming out which could be propagated and everyone can agree. So I have some views, and from that I will take the question answers so that we bring some solution. See, the main, I think so we have all agreed that below board years there are internal assessment, there is a lot of time, we can regroup and rebuild, and kids could be managed well. The critical part is on the board exams. And the link between the school and the college is the board exam. And I think so Rupa ma'am and everyone has given some views where it's not should be only to be like a paper pen based, but it should be more holistic, personality, vocation, personality development and checking, they're all very good. But can we look at, because when we look, see, one thing is very sure, we are percentage driven obsessed society. Whatever said and done, 99% everyone loves it. And that's something which lures the parents and which makes people excited. Keeping that also in mind, if at all we can have the examination in a staggered way, looking at saying the next session of 2022, if it is going to go for the college, say you push it till September, you have window of February till April and June. Each zone is taking their own exams in a staggered way. It's not like you have to think of the future. You also have to think of what's going to be the immediate solution, and then how also the assessments for the other grades are going to be taken place. So if suppose we collectively ideate that if these examinations are taken in a period of 2 to 3 months, staggered into 2 to 3 stages. So if few students can come in, they can. If few students, for whatever reason, they are in the containment zone, they cannot for whatever reason appear, they have got another chance to do it. And include the subjective and the objective based of assessment. If at all you can do something which is on the objective way, which is there sitting in the front of the computer, and you can appear, take that into consideration. So if it's 100 marks, 25 marks could be there where it's only computer based. 25 marks, as Rupa ma'am said, could be on the personality ways, and another which is on the subjective ways where they can take it in a staggered way. If schools contribute this idea, give it to board, because I think so, as Dr. Datta really mentioned, government is completely into a confused state. They don't have any clue how to solve this. So it's going to be collective effort, and the efforts are going to be coming from the schools. According to me, if it is broken into 3-4 months, and another biggest important part, and I think so I mentioned it before also, college and school, that is university and school can join hands together. So if at all a student who is aspiring to join science, college needs to give a pathway program by which that assessment, if at all, is not taken properly in the school, student is taking a pathway in that college where 6 months are given to the students to prepare that subject, and college is taking the final assessment before they take into that particular subject. Yes.
Bhavin, I'd just like to add to what you said, that your solution is excellent, but like in the beginning Rashid pointed out, most of our almost 200 out of our 200 million 256 million children, a large majority of them are in state government schools, and state boards unfortunately are not again belling the cat, because they're in government schools and government aided schools and state boards, no kind of learning only has begun.
I agree. So that's the reason you change the mechanism.
So that's also a big challenge which is going to happen, as to how do you have a fair and comprehensive with your state board and with your national board.
No, absolutely. So hub and spoke. So for whatever reason, currently learning which is happening via online, I think so government has been inefficient to collaborate with the private school, so that I think so none of the private schools are trying to deny, saying they don't want to spread the learning, correct? I mean, so the resources are there, they are ready to incorporate. See, one thing is very sure, I think so, for students also and for teachers, there are challenges. Means we can't just be sitting and saying, everything should be on the platter and everything should be at ease. There would be certain struggle that one has to, everyone goes through the struggle period, may it be academic or may it be in life. This is a very good, at least we are talking of the board student, a teen youth who's matured, at least to understand that, yes, I have a tough time and I should be preparing myself in advance if government is not helping me. So there has to be a little bit of a proactive approach that government has to communicate to this state government schools if they are not able to reach out to them. Yes, Uttara ma'am.
What I would just like to add here, Bhavin, all of us have been talking about, the board exams and everything, and which is, of course, a prime concern for all of us. But somewhere I still feel very strongly that we have to put health as a priority. Okay, because even the loss of, even if suppose one child due to a mismanagement of a system will be, cannot be compensated, right? Jaan hai to jahan hai. That is something that we should not compromise on. So if we have to put health first, I think even when the government is planning something or CBSE is looking at it, the health, not only of our students, of our teachers, They are going to be invigilating. There's a whole process to an examination. A board examination is not something that is just done like that, right? There are so many people involved. So we have to make sure that health is first prioritized. And of course, we have to find solutions. I quite liked your idea of, having it extended over a period of time, calling in smaller numbers, creating these bubbles of students who only interact with each other so that, you can contain it if it is there. So we'll have to find some solutions to this. And I'm sure with a collective thought process, we will, but it needs to be quick. I am again coming back to that.
Sure.
It needs to be quick.
No, I think so. With brains that are there, I think so. We have to have a quick solution. Yes, Rashid, sir.
So I'm just saying that, in fact, I'll share what I think is going to happen. Schools are going to open. Whether you like it or not, there's too much economy and too much other issues linked to it, that schools will open. Government will say, okay, you open it, either it's after Diwali or in October, in unlock phase, which we'll see unlock 4 in next couple of days. Something will come out. The government and the court has refused to stay any order on NEET exam or IT exam or compartmental exam. All that has happened. So I can also assure you that exams will happen, whether it's in March or in July. My view is that it may not happen in March. It will happen in July, and college cycle will go to what we call the regular fall cycle in September, October, which is the US or England kind of cycle. And I think that is what's going to happen. That will be one of the output of this entire pandemic, that we will now have college regularly session falling in September, and board exam probably moving at least this year towards June, July. I think that will be one solution, because things will improve. That will also give chances for students to get back to school in some kind of a staggered way. It will also allow government and the board and CBSE, ICCC to put their heads together to figure out how to test 32 crores students. It's a huge process, and so that's what I feel is going to happen, and that is probably what should happen over a longer period of time.
Yeah, let's hope that government takes some proactive action. So very quickly, all the panelists, I'll be taking some questions. The first question, and if I have to direct this, I think so, let me direct it to Rupa ma'am. This is by Johnny CS. Not every board has reduced the syllabus. So won't there be some disparity in the load taken on by students appearing under different boards? Rupa ma'am, can you unmute?
Unmute yourself.
You have to, yeah.
Yes, of course, there will be disparity, but then there has always been that much, which is, there are differences in all the boards. But having said that, the board which is going to ensure that the learning happens and the outcome happens. Over here, the main focus is on outcome, right? We're all talking assessment means outcome. If for forms of government, let fools contest. Literally, what is governed right is governed best. Because if a child even learns at home, then who are we to say that the learning has to happen in school, first and foremost. Secondly, if we have, and Johnny is one of them, I think, who mentioned this, that we have small capsules. Of course, bubble is one aspect that Uttara talked about. And then we have smaller time limits, where they have the exams. We don't have to have such long duration, 3 hours of exams. And that would be very helpful for a child to learn whatever the board, whether it decreases or increases or whatever, is not so relevant as much as the outcome. And we ensure that we are doing it in shorter periods of time. We are doing a holistic assessment rather than just the pen and paper. So I think if we can do this, it would be very, very fruitful, and we could use this radical time to change ourselves radically. We've been wanting to change the exam system. What better time than now?
Absolutely. What better time than now? Uttara ma'am, this question is addressed, I think so it's better because this is from Omana. No, I think so. I'll take the Deepa D'Souza's question because this is largely towards technology and you have been the forefront to deploy the latest technology. Since we have been conducting tests through different apps like Google Forms, Google Classroom and the rest, do you think there will be a possibility of an online exam even for the boards and using this kind of a platform?
So that would really be an ideal situation if the boards could come up with an online exam. But again, here, you know, like we were talking about earlier, you don't want parents prompting. So you need the examination to be set in such a manner that it is testing a child's conceptual understanding. But here, my question is, have we taught our children like that? A child has to be taught like that first to be able to attempt and answer a question paper that is checking his conceptual understanding. And in our country, unfortunately, we have been, a lot of focus has been put on memory and, you know, learning answers and not really, and children are also taught to answer questions. And somewhere our boards, question papers have evolved over the years, but still there is a lot of focus on testing knowledge only and not, though the HOTS has come in and all, but it's still a small portion of the paper, right? The entire thing is not there. So how do you expect the child to answer online something where he's not been trained to learn like that? So we should actually, even now, if we start teaching our children like that, let's not only look at one board exam, you know, like we were talking about earlier. A pandemic is a time to it gives a rebirth to something, right? So if it has given birth to this whole online medium, which today everybody finds is very useful, then somewhere online examinations should come in. Because today it's a pandemic, tomorrow it could be something else. Why should we just look at a short-term solution for now? We should look at a solution for long-term, but we have to teach our children first correctly, then only should we assess them in a manner where, you know, an online exam could be the right way. So technology is here to stay. I think we all need to reinvent ourselves further, and teachers across, I personally believe, whether it is rural areas, urban areas, private schools, public schools, teachers are the people who are willing to upscale and learn, because, you know, a teacher is somebody for whom their children are very, very important. So when we can do something for our children, I'm sure all teachers are ready to take on this challenge very well. But I think it still requires a lot of planning. I don't think online exams can happen in 4 months. It'll not be very fair. An option, maybe, if an option can be given, yes. But to say that only online will happen, honestly, I don't think it will work.
So I think the way we discussed, I think so only certain portions, say around 25 marks are kept for online. And I think so we have to distribute our marking system in a way where it's not all thing goes online, but it's...
So Bhavin, even now the boards have a percentage of 20, 30, which is internal assessment, right? Which can easily be done online. You can do a Viva online. You can't do a chemistry practical online, but even now with virtual labs, teachers are doing a whole lot of things. So maybe a 50-50 percentage is what I feel. Maybe internal assessment could become 50%, and a shorter paper like Rupa ma'am suggested is a brilliant idea. Have a shorter paper, have a 50-mark external paper, reduce the time, reduce the exposure to risk, is what I feel would work.
Thank you very much. Rashid sir, very short question, but a very important one, as you have been already gazing the crystal ball and predicting what's going to happen. Sir, one important question is, are we calling in for a One India, One Board? Is this going to give a birth to One India, One Board?
It will not, because, you know, education is a state, it falls on the state list, that's one. Secondly, I'm not sure if any country has one board. You know,
China has the one common entrance exam, irrespective of what it is. It's a huge country.
Thank God for that. But I'm just saying that I don't think we probably will move towards that. We will have a standardized entry-level test for colleges, and that's okay. All throughout India, we could have the board exam as the base marks for entry to maybe colleges and also to a professional college. That may happen, and I'm quite okay with that. But I don't see that one board, one India is going to happen.
So how does this parity, whatever we are discussing now, that's fine. But tomorrow, again, the 90% club will be existing. Do you think certain boards, like progressive boards, international boards, will have quite far edge than the others? and still we are in the rigmarole of the whole thing where, kids are left out, and we are just back on the same discussion. Because if there is different, probably there are 2 more boards which are coming in India.
I'm aware of one, which I am going to part of, but anyhow, just joking. But what I'm saying is that, India is also not 1 crore student, right? Who are in relatively better schools, and they go to better colleges or they go abroad. We are also looking at remaining 31 crores, and how access to college or to further education will be affected by this entire issue, and will they be able to afford it? So either you create a system which is based on affordability, where everyone can afford it, and then if you can afford it, then there will always be those who are what we call haves, who will say, I will still prefer not to go with common janta, but I'll have my own, because that becomes a bit of a class within education. And whether you like it or not, lots of schools, they perpetuate it, and they feed that myth about in India and abroad.
Yeah, so it's true. I think so. 1 board will be still a dream. Dr. Nipin, my last question to you would be from Tina Banot. Can we go back to CCE, Continuous Comprehensive Evaluation? Is it coming back?
Good.
Yeah, it looks like it is coming back when we talk about the 360-degree holistic progress card. But now it's coming back in a very different way, because there are many components given there, which was the CCE was limited purely to academics and post-scholastic and scholastic, 2 parts. And here it is, here we are talking about no hard separation. We are talking about multidisciplinary approach too. So the conversions, as now CBSE is clearly stated, based on the ideals of the NPE about the no streams. They are all conversing the subject wise they can take, and they can cut across streams. Biology students can take up economics. So this is a good thing. And now already the CBSE has started with its art integration, mainstreaming of physical and health education, and all the holistic curriculum. The CBSE has already started a lot of things with the NPAs as envisaged. I mean, last 1.5 year, we can see that. So you're right, Bhavin, that we are going back, but in a better way, better style, and what a lot of solid aspects into it, which are really focused towards bringing up.
CCE is now getting accepted in a new avatar, in a better way.
Yeah.
And probably CCE will come with some flying colors for the students also, and for teachers. Yeah. Thank you very much, Summiya. I'm already overshooted 5 more minutes. I think so. There are a few more questions, and I think Minded team, I would suggest you can send this question to the panelists. They'll be happy, because I'm sorry I failed in the exam. It's 42 questions. I could have almost covered half of it, but in the gist, I think so I've covered all. So all the educators are here, where they can give marks saying whether we passed or failed and what's the future. Over to you, Summiya.
Thanks, Bhavin. Bhavin, in the pandemic year, everything is forgiven. So you're also forgiven.
So I pass.
I think we've had a very interesting question and answer session, and also our panel discussion has been very interesting, but we've also been not able to answer many of the questions because the situation is so unprecedented. It's once in a century pandemic which we've been encountering. I think the main takeaway is that we should not let uncertainty cloud the judgment and cause anxiety to parents and students, educators, schools. The government, whatever the decision is, the national boards and the state boards, like you correctly said, Bhavin, not to allow disparity, they should come together and together work out a national solution which is a fair, comprehensive, and also gives, like Ms. Uttara Singh said, gives a priority to the health and well-being of children, because even a one child lost is unforgivable. For a parent, an exam can be taken again, but a life lost cannot be replaced. So given all these very, very important, and I think it's not an easy decision to make, government also has a tough decision to make, but that's what we elected them for. Governments have to make tough decisions, and they have to take the nation through this very, very, very difficult time. Over to you. I'd like to thank all my panelists, Rashid, Uttara, Rupa, and Dr. Datta, and of course, Bhavin. I think we've had a great discussion, but we need to take this discussion forward and ideate solutions. And Education World is going to take this forward. Over to you, Prateek, Eesha.
PD, over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to come in here because, I've been listening to the entire discussion. Mr. Rashid, good evening. Maybe because by the time you joined, I had gone off. So I'd just like to share a few things, which I've been listening to all our esteemed panelists. So there are a few points which I'd like to reiterate. Number one, as I don't need to go into this, that this is an unprecedented situation and there is no one solution. Absolutely, I completely get it. When Mr. Rashid or Uttara ma'am, Rupa ma'am, and Nipin sir, there is no one solution and it is going to be very difficult. Number two is we can talk about life of the student is very important. 1 year gone or few months gone, absolutely we could recover it later. Completely with you. Third point, which is very, very important is that we are not only talking about the haves, we are also talking about the have-nots. So therefore, we also have to think about rural India and a very right point where we've not even started the education for this year. So that is something that needs to be thought about. Fourth thing, which is I believe is very important, is that as far as younger kids are concerned, kids in the primary school, even at the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, we don't need to worry. Exams happened, didn't happen. It's okay. Even if 10th class board exams go for a toss, there is nothing earth shattering that's going to happen. The only important part is 12th class student. Right? Because 12th class students are going to university. Therefore, we have to find a via media, because I know if in October and November, when rolling admissions have started across international universities, they're asking for predictive marks. But how will a school give predictives when we haven't done any internal assessment? Okay, now we say, okay, let's go to 11th class. Let's pick up something from last year, which will be very unfair. Why? Because a lot of us did not look at 11th class. We just thought it's fun. Let's enjoy. We'll take care of it in 12th class. But God never gave us a chance, right? So therefore, that's important. Then another important factor, which I picked it up from all our absolutely brilliant panel, is that I'm sorry, you can't delay it. We are already in October. And very soon we are looking at festival season, then November, December. I would go and put my neck on the block every day that we are pushing uncertainty. It is like, and in case there has to be a solution, absolutely, as a lot of our panel, it has to be a staggered solution. If we start thinking now, we have to disseminate information to an entire country, to almost 40 different boards. And that in itself will, so whether it's practical, online, offline, how would we make it possible? And there are so many factors to be considered. But I have to give a complete 100 on 100 to our panel for dealing with such a difficult topic. There are no answers. All of us can predict.
No, we achieved 50%, sir.
No, I'm sorry. We've achieved 100 on 100. Absolutely. Why? Because someone has to discuss these things. Only when we discuss, we will kind of come out with possibilities. And I don't know which possibility will work. So sooner or later, the government has to deal with it. And it cannot just be central government. It has to be in coordination with different boards, different state governments. There is so much that we have to do for. So thank you so much. I can't tell you, we are indebted to you for spending such a crucial time. And I know our participants would be much wiser. Thank you so much. Eesha, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, PD. I think you summed it up very well. And thank you, a heartiest thank you to all of you. I think this panel discussion was very, very exciting and it gave us some really great insights. So I think all of us are extremely happy. There are tons of queries, and I just thought I'll share that we've had most of the participants online since 8 o'clock this morning. So the kind of attention, the kind of questions they're asking, and the way they're enjoying the session, I feel that all of you have done an absolutely tremendous job here. So thank you so much to all our panelists. Thank you, Education World. Thank you, Bhavin. Thank you, Summiya. Our collaboration is going great. We have been managing some great webinars. So thank you so much for that. And just a little concluding note for all our ICCC participants. We will be reaching out to you individually starting tomorrow morning. You have been a very great audience. Thank you for joining in for the 2 days conference, and also a heartiest, a big thank you to all the people who are the other educators who have joined in. I hope you enjoyed yourself and have a lovely Sunday evening.
Thank you, Eesha. Thank you, Uttara ma'am. Thank you, Nipin sir. Thank you, Rashid sir.
Thank you, Bhavin. Thank you, Summiya.
Thank you, Bhavin.
Thank you.
Everyone. Prakrit, everyone. Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Thank you.
Stay safe.
And thanks for choosing so important a topic.
Yes, very relevant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bhavin. Summiya, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Bye, Bhavin.
Bye-bye, ma'am.
Take care.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, Uttara. Bye.
Bye, Rupa ma'am. Bye-bye, Nipin sir.
Bye. Thank you, Uttara. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Rupa.
Rashid, bye.
Eesha, you stay.
Yes, okay.
We are waiting for our guests to leave, only then we can leave.
Absolutely. I will follow you.
Yes. Wow. Brilliant.
Thank you. All right.
Wow.
Okay.
What an amazing discussion it was. Wow. Brilliant.
Superb.
Brilliant.
Okay.
And to more than 200 participants who are still with us, God bless you, stay safe, and don't worry, you have anything on your mind, please share with us.
And enjoy your Sunday evening. Go and party now a little bit. You've had 2 days. They can't go.
We left nothing of their weekend. We've taken their weekend.
No, but like tonight, just go and chill out. Like just have a good evening. I think these 2 days we have given you too much information.
Yeah.
All right. You all will get your certificate. Please don't be worried. We will ensure your certificates reach you within the coming week. So
Yes,
don't
and
worry.
if you don't get your certificate, I'll give you my certificate. All right. Yeah.
Yes, he has lots of them. All of you will be able to manage a certificate. So he has a whole wall filled with certificates.
Oh,
It's
your
your birthday, Dennis. A very happy birthday.
Many happy return today. God bless you.
PD sir, you're awesome with a heart, pink heart.
Fun.
All right, guys, take care. Bye bye.
Please spend time with your family. Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.